you came to see what you're doing today. So
yes, I have any questions to you because you are a man with a lot of experience in heat training, and it's interesting to me to learn about your experience.
okay, great. Well, today, folks, I am honored to have Javier Visa. I hope I'm not mispronouncing his name. On the screen right now, you're seeing his Facebook page, Esforzo, which I can understand. Here's my Spanish. I know it has to do with personal training.
Yes.
What's the significance of esforzo? What would that? How would that translate into English, or is that just a logo?
Esforzo is the same in English to effort.
Effort. Oh, I see. Okay, effort. Okay, I get it. Good. So, in a way,
it's my way of understanding the exercise, because the exercise is all forces.
Right, you're working hard to get results. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going
that
to
reach the human body, to learn the human body and the force that reach the body.
Okay, so if you see yourself in the screen, maybe just move your camera in a way so that your full face is in the screen, because you can see there, if you look at yourself, you'll see that your part of it is cut off at the bottom, your chin's missing.
Sorry?
Your face in the screen, if you can move your camera
yes.
So that you can, so I can see all of you, or there we go, perfect, there you go.
Okay.
So, Javier, could you tell people how long have you been doing this, and what brought you to become a personal trainer and get involved in personal training? Please let me know if you need me to explain more. I just want to know, your background, why you do what you do, and how long you've been doing it.
Personal trainer, me?
Yeah.
I'm personal training about since 6 years in one-to-one training, but
Have you been doing
previously I'm coaching physical training of football players in a team,
right?
And I stay in a high performance center in Pontevedra, in Galicia, and now I work in a wait a sec.
Right.
I'm preparing to training law enforcement agencies in Spain, policemen. I have 2 works. First, training policies.
Yeah.
And personal training one-on-one.
Oh, okay. So you're training police.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Good. And all using the HIT techniques. You're using training.
Yes. Using slow training in pull-ups to monitoring the load.
Right.
And control the movement to execute better the pull-up.
Okay, great. So so you have like an arrangement with a local police force, and they all train. You work with them, for them, to do that. And so how is that going? The police that you work with, are they receptive? They like the workout?
The physical tests to this?
Right.
Yes, police in Spain have 3 three physical tests. One is to do pull-ups. Minimum number are 5.
Okay.
And the match number are 17.
Okay.
17, espera, 17, sí. The second physical test is run 1 kilometer, and the maximum time is 3 minutes 42 seconds.
Okay.
And the best time are is 2 minutes 52 seconds. And the last physical test is an agility circuit.
Agility?
Agility circuit, yes.
Okay.
Only three physical tests, and the woman is the same, but in the instead of pull-up is bueno, ¿cómo te lo digo? Suspensión, no, suspensión en barra. Bar suspension. Bar suspension is in woman.
So they just hold on as long as they can.
No, bar suspension in women's, pull-ups men.
Okay. Now 5 pull-ups. A lot of men can't do 5 pull-ups, particularly if they're a little heavy set.
5 pull-ups is a point, is 1 point, and 17 is a 10 point. 16 9, 15 8, and 10 11 is 5 points. You can reach 15 points in the 3 physical tests. If you know a point, one of physical tests, you not pass the physical las pruebas.
So somebody might do only 2 or 3 pull-ups, but they might do better on the run.
I understand. Overcoming the bar is one criteria.
So your personal
do not move in the sagittal plane,
right?
And not take advantage of rebound. The three criteria principal.
And with your personal training that you do, other than the police, your clients, what age, how old are your other clients? Are they different ages, or are you training?
Yes, different ages, 35, 38, 18, 21, 22, 25, different ages. I have 120 clients now in Vigo. Yes, it's
Wow.
a lot of clients in the academy. Yeah, and in the personal training one-on-one, I have 14 approximately. I work one-on-one and a couple or 3 group, small group, maximum 3 persons.
So with the personal training, do a one-on-one.
Yes.
Because of your background with football, are some of your clients football players?
Yes, anyone, but now I prefer work with football players in a small group. and with the persons who have 14 years or more, we prefer to work one-on-one.
Okay. Well, with here in Canada, North America, a lot of coaches, sports coaches, have never heard of HIIT training, and they get their people to do things very different. Are you able to get the coaches sort of to buy into what you're doing and accept HIIT training as being a good thing for their players?
When I was physical training in football, we the players remember me about HIIT training because we have sit-ups with a slow cadence times 5 seconds eccentric and 5 seconds concentric, and no one trainer do this after me, before me, and miss the method, the slow training and this type of exercise. We feel the muscles of the body, the different ways to normal and conventional exercise or methods.
Now, people who play football, how often, if you belong to a football team, I'm thinking, are we talking amateurs, professionals, both?
Semi-professional team, and in women, professional team in second division here in Spain. You can check my profile in Facebook.
So if I'm a semi-professional or professional, how often am I playing football in a week between games and practices? Am I playing every day?
No, at this time we train 4 times a week, 2 hours in each training.
Now you're referring to training for football, not strength training.
Sorry?
When you say 4 times a week for 2 hours,
yes.
You're referring to playing football. You're not referring to being in the gym for 2 hours.
No. In the pitch,
Right.
2 hours, and at first time in the beginning of the week, when I was the physical trainer, I speak 13 minutes Tuesday in a gym, and 1 hour and 13 minutes in a pitch.
Okay. All right. So because I'm thinking those football players, they're pretty active. They do a lot of work. So are they? I would think strength training, you have to maybe do a little less HIIT training so they can recover and still be able to play football. Is that
what they don't understand in football? What they don't understand in football is that if you train slow, you can make you fast in the pitch.
right?
It's
Right.
difficult to learn about players, but after months, we learn the training method.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah. So after a while, they understand. You're teaching them to understand that it's making them moving slow, makes them faster on the pitch.
Yes, yes.
Right.
It's very, very important to me to explain the players that this kind of exercise make faster and strength in the actions of the football. Jump, to sprint, to block is very important in.
So, and also you're probably helping them to avoid injuries.
Yes, to prevent is very, 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 very important. You you are more aware of your body. How I explain that? You connect better with your muscles. You feel the muscle better than other players that do not train strength.
Okay, interesting. Now, is strength training, whether hit or otherwise, is it common with football players? Do most football players do some form of strength training?
Strength training,
yeah.
Classical,
yeah, classical normally
in Spain and elite players using traditional methods like wader and inertial Kaiser, you know this brand. And
yeah. So now you mentioned that you might have some questions for me.
Yes.
Any questions? Yes. So what questions might I be able to answer?
Firstly, what's your opinion about CrossFit and other training methodologies in between slow training and HIIT?
Well, CrossFit, first of all, I should qualify my answer by saying I've never done it. But my thoughts on CrossFit, and I've interviewed people who have done CrossFit and have coached CrossFit, is I don't think of it as exercise per se. I think it's a sport. And for people who want to participate in that sport and be aware that they can be injured, then of course, as long as you're aware of the risk and it's something that's important to them, then, have at it. I mean, I think I could say that about many sports, playing football, here in Canada, playing hockey, playing whatever. When you're doing something as a sport, as recreation, there's an element of risk and there's a chance of injury. My perception of CrossFit is that there's a very high instance of injury. So I don't think of it as an exercise program that I would recommend to very many people. There's no question that some people get fit and get strong doing CrossFit, but I think there's a survivorship bias at place. And what I mean by that is when you see the guys and the girls in the CrossFit competitions who are, really strong and do some amazing things, what you're not seeing is all the people who started CrossFit and got injured and quit. And I think there's a lot more than that, particularly, older people, but to me, you have to be naturally athletic to start with. Like I'm not a natural athlete. I don't have good agility, skill, and things like that. So I think I would hurt myself very quickly doing CrossFit. So other types of exercise, more traditional exercise, my view is there's lots of ways to get stronger and to get fitter. And I think that you can show that they all work, up to a person's genetic potential. But there are ways, what HIIT brings to the table is much less time, which makes it much easier to stick to, because once or twice a week for 20, 30, 40 minutes is a lot easier to stick to than 3, 5, 6, 7 times a week. And also because it's slower, it's safer, and because you're doing less, there's less wear and tear on the body. So when I think about exercise, I don't think in terms of, how am I going to get in shape for this summer so I can look good in a bathing suit this summer? I think in terms of, will my exercise program keep me fit when I'm 40, 50, 60, and 70? So in other words, if my exercise program gets me strong and fit, but in the meantime, it's also hurting my joints and my ligaments and my tendons that will come back to haunt me when I'm older, then to me, that's not a good exercise choice. Now, if people want to play a sport and they understand that, playing a sport, I'm sure that football players have issues with knees and feet and all sorts of things. But if you're passionate about playing football and you love to play football, then that's a choice you make. And you get as strong as you can, using Javier as a good trainer to avoid injuries as much as you can. But you go in with your eyes open, realizing that, this is a sport that is going to take its wear and tear on your body, as well as give you a certain degree of physical fitness. So for me, the ideal thing is that you can get the good part, which is the physical fitness, without the bad part, which is having your whole life spent in the gym or nursing injuries as you get older. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Perfect. As Ken Hutchins reflects, at the moment, the currents do not distinguish between exercise and recreation. And that is here in Europe one of the big problem. Exercise is not fun, and you can have loud music and other state.
Well, and the other thing too that I think causes confusion between exercise and recreation is skill practice, which is to get stronger doesn't take long, as you know, right? A couple of workouts a week with some good basic exercise, working hard, putting in good effort.
So you agree with Arthur Jones that it should be intense, infrequent, and brief?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so, but with skill, if you're going to be good at anything that requires skill, whether it's playing a musical instrument or playing chess or being a good football player, unfortunately, you have to spend time, and you have to spend considerable time in order to get better. But even then, and I notice you've been reading some Ken Hutchins and things like Drew Bay and things like that. So even Ken Hutchins says, even skill practice, you're better off to have shorter bouts and more often. So in other words, let's say using a musical instrument, instead of practicing your guitar for 6 hours in a row, you're better off to practice for 15 minutes, half an hour, take a break, and then come back and practice again. Because if you get tired when you're practicing your skill, then what happens is, like, let's say that you're a football player and you practice too much. Well, you're not going to perform the same way when you're exhausted as you do when you're fresh. So you should try to make your practice as close to, the actual game, circumstances as you're going to be. So, if you're playing guitar or a musical instrument or whatever it is, or playing golf, then you're going to do it when you're fresh. So practicing it when you're tired can, I think, actually mess you up.
Yes.
See, I had one of my clients, and he was convinced that he should carry his golf bag on his shoulders rather than pull it on the wheel, and he should do that and walk, not use a cart and do it, because he was going to get him in better shape. But I said, but that's going to mess up your golf swing, because when you get to the golf, your shoulders and everything is tired from carrying your golf bag around. So you're better off to, get a cart and just put the bag on the back. And then when you're doing your swing, you're nice and fresh and whatnot, and it's going to mess you up. So, people confuse skill and strength training a lot, right? Because people will, and the other thing is, a lot of world-class athletes do things that they get away with, like work out, 3 times a day and 7 days a week and stuff like that. But they're genetically blessed, right? So they're successful. Let me know if this makes sense. They're successful not because of that. They're successful despite that. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? In other words, they'd be even more successful if they did less exercise.
You according with me that the muscles is the one that works, and the system cardiovascular is the one that gives support. Yes.
The cardiovascular is the one that gives, say that again?
Support.
Super. So that word there, you'll have to define for me. I'm not grasping. So so strength is the one that moves, and cardiovascular gives super. By that you mean health, or
in any one activity is support. Muscle.
Support. Oh yeah, support. Okay, I'm
support.
Getting,
sorry,
yeah.
my English is
yes.
poor.
Well, and I, cardiovascular is a misunderstood term. Sometimes I'm not sure I fully understand what people mean by that, because, on the one hand, your heart and your lungs perform well, but then on the other hand, it's at the cellular level where your cells, your mitochondria are more efficient at processing energy. Because to me,
in the muscle. In the muscle.
Exactly. And to me, it's how you're processing energy efficiently and are able to do that. Because just making your heart beat fast or making your lungs, breathe heavy. I mean, technically, you could make your heart beat fast by, watching scary movies, and you get your heart rate up, and you can breathe, heavier by just doing, some sort of meditation where you involve yourself with heavy breathing. And I think those may have benefits. Maybe not the scary movie part, but breathing exercises, I think it seems to be some logic to, ingesting more oxygen in that. But to me, like I never do anything different for cardiovascular.
Dr. McGaff consider the muscle as a vital organ.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I would be with him on that. I do think at one time, guys like Ken Hutchins and others used to say, you should work out and then do nothing in between, like rest. Like if you can sit, If you, instead of stand, sit, if you can lay down and really do as little as possible to fully recover from your workout. And I think since then they realized that that's not the way. I think you should be active, but I think being active is if you're just getting up every hour and walking around, and most people, like you're getting up because you're training people. I live on a little farm here, so I have some work to do outside. I have snow to shovel, everything else. So I'm active, not on purpose, just because I have to keep busy, I have to do things. And I think as long as you're getting up and moving around regularly, there's no need to have any separate, walking or running or swimming program. Again, unless you enjoy doing those activities. If that's fun for you, then great, go for it. But be aware that everything we do with our bodies is going to have a certain amount of wear and tear on our bodies, right? So if you enjoy doing them, great. And it's kind of like if you own a sports car, you don't want to just shine it and do everything. Every now and then you want to take it out for a spin. And that means maybe when you take that sports car out for a spin, you might get in an accident. You're going to have put some mileage on the car. Well, same thing with your body. Every now and then, what do you got those muscles for? You want to take them out and play some football or play a sport and have some fun. But unlike the sports car, if the sports car, gets old and doesn't run anymore, you can always get another one. But your body, if you've wrecked up your body doing certain things, once you get to be 60, 70, 80 years old, if you're lucky enough to live that long, you're going to wish you had taken better care of it because you can't trade it in for a new one. Right?
Nice explain.
So,
one interesting question for me. Any training method, slow training also has some drawbacks, in my opinion. With some beginner clients, I find it difficult to keep up with the execution of the movement. In my opinion, requires technical learning to do the exercise very slow. And in addition, in an initial phase, the execution of a single set is not capable of fatigate the muscle, in my opinion.
I think that's a very good point. And I think sometimes in HIIT, people get a little dogmatic and overly strict. Like, oh my God, you did a second set. Oh, you broke the rules. You're not supposed to do a second set type of thing. Or you moved a little too fast or whatever it is. And I think that, and you're going to get some clients who are not willing to work as hard. Well, maybe a second set for them is going to be what it takes. So, and it's not like you're, just because you did 2 sets, or God forbid, some people might decide they're going to do 2 or 3 warm-ups and then do their working set. And somebody will say, oh, that's not HIIT, that's not the right way to do it. But, we're not that fragile as a human being that's going to make a big difference. You know what I mean? As long as you stay reasonable. Because I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing is, are you doing some sort of intelligent strength training or not? Right? That's going to make the biggest difference. And then if you're going to do strength training, are you working hard enough to get some results? Right? Because if you don't work at least hard enough, I don't know that you always have to go to complete failure. I don't think that's true. And
you only make a single set with your customers. You
I only do a a single set with most clients, but if I have clients sometimes that I feel may not be working as hard, I might sneak in a different exercise for the chest, right? So in other words, in a way, they're doing a second set, but it's slightly different. But, you know, even if, like, as long as they're working reasonably hard, like if I have a client who doesn't go to failure, you know, and I just can't get them to really work hard, because, you know, you have some clients that really work hard and others not as much, right?
yes.
Well, as long as I'm adding a little weight every week, you know, they're getting stronger. They're still getting stronger, right? And I'll continue to do that. And so I think you're right. I mean, there's a point at which I think the difference between doing it one way or another way is small. In other words, let's say that you're training and you're a professional football player and you're going to play in the World Cup. And the difference between you being in better shape than your competitor might make a difference between winning and losing. Then you really have to dial in everything perfectly as much as you can to do as well as you can. But if you're just trying to age gracefully and be able to play with your grandkids and be able to do your activities of daily living and stay healthy and stuff like that, then I think sometimes you got to sort of, you've got to not get too worried about the little details. You know what I mean? Having said that, you also have to be careful to not let it slide completely, right? Because once you start to compromise a little bit, then it's easier to start compromising a lot. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I use an analogy. If you work someplace and you're required at work to wear a uniform and always wear a nice uniform and have it, you know, pressed nice and your tie is good and everything else, and you're supposed to look like $1 million. Well, you know, if you're the manager there and you dress down a little bit, your staff will dress down a lot. And if you dress down a bit more, whatnot. So once you start to, you know, compromise on form or not working as hard or changing the rules and whatnot, you want to be careful that you don't go down a slope where it can become really bad. You know what I mean? Where you're moving too quickly and things like that. So
Yeah.
there's a balance between, I don't know if you've heard, I don't know how this translates well. Sometimes the perfect is the enemy of the good.
The perfect is the enemy of the good.
Yeah. So in other words, if only perfect is good enough, right? Like sometimes I see people on the internet and I'll see somebody on a video and they're doing a workout. And I think the form is pretty good, right? I think it's definitely acceptable. Could it be better? Yes, but it's acceptable, right? They're working hard and whatnot. And then somebody will come along and say, well, that guy doesn't know what he's doing and that's horrible form and that's terrible. And he shouldn't, he'll never get results doing that. And I'm thinking, that's nonsense. Of course he will. Could it be better? Yes. But at the end of the day, the guy's working out. He's doing it reasonably well. He's working hard and he's doing it. So I find sometimes in hit circles, there's too much people attacking each other on how to do it perfectly. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
you know what I mean? That's what I mean. Sometimes the perfect is the enemy of the good.
Of the good.
Right? If that makes any sense, because for most people, like Doug McGuff, you know, and I took him to task a little bit for that because I wasn't real comfortable about it, but he said to people, just lift weights. You know what I mean? In other words, just lift weights. So what he means by that is strength training, as long as it's reasonably safe, reasonably well done, is amazing, right? It's like one of the most amazing things you can do. So he's basically saying if you make the bar this high, where you have to do exactly 10-second reps and you have to go to failure and you have to do all that. And I'm not saying, I mean, that's what I try to do in my own training, is to do it as well as I can. But, you know, I don't criticize somebody else if what they're doing is working for them and they're staying injury free and whatnot, because to me, they're a colleague, they're a peer, there's somebody who's also involved in strength training and they're bettering themselves. And everybody's on their own path. Do you know what I mean? Everybody's got to find their own way in doing these.
Equilibrium. The word is balance. The word is balance.
Balance. Equilibrium would be balance. Exactly. Yes, exactly. So, and I mean, like sometimes I'll give you an example. A client says to me, Rick, today, last time we did the chest press before the leg press, today you changed the order. Why did you do that? And I'll say, well, because the machine was closer. You know what I mean? In other words, there's no big secret there where you're going to get better results because I did one before the other. You know what I mean? Like people are looking for some secret recipe. And I'm like, you know, at the end of the day, like I have 20 machines, right? So I have all these different machines, but you could get results with 5 machines. You could get results with some dumbbells and some barbells and a bench. Right. I mean,
wait. At this moment, I have a question, an important question to me that is related with this. That to work about the machines, what importance do you give to the equipment in relation to training in his type of methodologies?
The machines are a tool. I think that they are helpful, particularly with an older clientele. So I'm going to use an example, okay? So let's say you want to hammer a nail, right? If you didn't have a hammer, you could do it with a rock, right? You could grab a rock and you could hammer a nail, right? But of course, if you had a hammer, that would work better, right? And if you had a nail gun, like a powered nail gun, that would work even better. So, and with the nail gun or the hammer, the chances of hitting your thumb with the hammer or the chances of bending the nail are a lot better. So the nail gun requires the least amount of skill, right? So, but at the end, if you look at a nail that's already nailed in, you can't tell if it was nailed in with a rock or if it was nailed in with a nail gun. All you know is it's nailed in, right? So you can get the job done, but I think machines, good machines, because some machines are not well designed, but I think a good machine, especially with older people, where, you know, like for example, certain exercise, I'll use the example of abdominal exercises. I have a Nautilus abdominal machine. I actually think getting on the floor and doing crunches is better than my Nautilus abdominal machine. I think you can isolate your abdominals better just getting on the floor and doing crunches, okay? But my clients who are 60 and 70-year-olds, getting on and off the floor is sometimes hard for them to do. And when you're on the floor doing crunches, it's sometimes hard on the neck because you have to support your head. And of course, you can't measure progress as well as you can with a weight stack, when you have a weight stack where you can measure progress. So the abdominal machine has its uses, but there's no magic in the machine, right? But it can be safer. But as long as, and if you do have a machine that's not well designed, for example, I have a biceps curl machine that's just this cheap thing, and it has a terrible strength curve. You know what I mean? Like it's really heavy here and it's really light,
yes.
right? Well, you can compensate for that by just, spending more time in the hard part and less time. If you understand the thing, you can make any machine work. I know some people in the HIIT community are really against rubber bands and whatnot. But I think if you understand the principles of exercise and what you're trying to do,
with dumbbells or bars,
you can do it with rubber bands, right? There's a guy who I'm hoping I'm going to be doing a podcast with, Mayor. Hang on here, I'll look in because I have an email from him, and you may have seen he's from the Netherlands, and he's been doing things with rubber bands. And it's actually pretty impressive what he does. Hang on here, I'll just bring up his name.
You meet a friend of mine in Spain that her name is Esther.
Yes.
Yes, is a colleague. Is my colleague that we study in Barcelona. The same studies.
Yeah, she's very nice. So this guy's name is Arjun Meyer. I'll just bring up here on here. Arjun, I'm probably mispronouncing his name. See if I can bring up here. Oh, there's lots of different people. But anyways, I'll send you. But he's doing some things with rubber bands that are really quite impressive. But he understands exercise, and he does it well. And it's interesting. I look at, he refers to only doing so many work sets. So that implies to me that he's doing warm-up sets, right? So at the end of the day, if somebody does a couple of warm-up sets, I don't see that that's going to hurt anything. Do you know what I mean? Like you're warming up. And I think there may even be some benefits to doing a light warm up. With some of my older clients who have issues with their knees or things like that, I will do a light warm up set. And I just tell them to just do a few sets until they feel like their knees feel lubricated and things like that. And then we do the set. Well, some people in HIIT will say, well, no, it's got to be one set. You can't do more than one set. Well, it's
you do with your customers one set for lubricate the knees and shoulders and
only some clients.
Only some clients.
If clients, because my clients are older. So I have clients who have bad knees,
vale.
And I have clients who have bad shoulders and stuff like that. So for them, a light warm-up set helps. So and even like guys like
to enroll the muscle before, no? Yes.
Yeah, Drew Bay will say a warm-up set is not necessary in most cases. Meaning there's exceptions to that. And for people who are older or who have issues with their joints, then I think it can be beneficial. And there is, I think sometimes some people might be able to work harder after a warm-up set, particularly if they're using a short time under load. Like somebody who's only doing a time under load of 50, 60 seconds, I think could probably benefit from a warm-up set. With my older clients, many times their set will be 2 or 3 minutes, right? And so that's pretty long, but when somebody's 75 years old, I use a lighter weight. and go a little bit longer, right? So most of the time, not that long, but sometimes it is. And when I'm teaching people the exercises at first, when they're brand new, I typically will pick a weight that they can do for 2 or 3 minutes until they get more used to doing the exercise and their form is good. So
continuing a bit with the machines. What type of machines has surprised you, and which one seem better to you? Medex, Hammer Strength, Nautilus.
I would say, I mean, obviously the machines, probably the best machines I've tried, which are extremely rare, are the ones that Ken Hutchins either worked with and either they're Medex that have been changed by him, or Super Systems or RenX. But I mean, good luck finding those. But then after that, I would say, and I haven't used all of them, but I've been very impressed by Medex, because Medex, of course, is the evolution of Nautilus, right? And so every time I've used them, I've been very impressed. I have a one Medex machine. I have a medical lumbar machine, and it's very smooth, very nice. And then Hammer Strength are very smooth because they don't have a weight stack. You just pivot in one place, but they have
plate load problem. You put the loads in the.
You mean, well, the separate thing, isolateral, which, you know, there's different schools of thought. Again, going back to what I said about, you know, a rock and a nail gun and a hammer. To me, when you have the separate load, it requires a little more skill. But I've never had anybody hurt themselves. But the main drawback of Hammer Strength for me is, as a trainer, that you have to be hauling weights around all the time and loading and unloading the weights, as opposed to just taking a pin in a weight stack and just moving the weight stack, adjusting the seat, and you're ready to go. And Nautilus, of course, when you talk about Nautilus, you know, some of my Nautilus machines that I have here are probably close to 50 years old. And the old Nautilus machine are built like tanks. They're super heavy, they're super big, but some of them are not as smooth as some of the newer ones, right? If you have like Nautilus Nitro, they're smoother, but they're not built as well. And then, I mean, but those basically, but I've been like on cruise ships and whatnot, and I've been on other machines that I never heard of that I really thought were terrible, actually. And to me, I would have been better off, you know, doing it. And, you know, going back to machines and not machines, I still think push-ups and chin-ups are two of the best exercises anybody can do. If you're strong enough. Not everybody is strong enough, but to me, chin-ups is probably still the best upper body exercise that you can do.
Pullover is better. Now
I have a pullover machine. I have a Nautilus pullover machine. It has its place, but if somebody said to me, for the rest of your life, you have to pick one. You can never do another chin up, or you can never do another pullover, I would choose the chin up over the pullover.
Oh, nice.
So, but I mean, but I don't want to make that choice. I use both. But yeah, the pullover is nice, but a chin up is nice. A push up is nice. I really like dips too, doing dips.
Yes. I know. I understand you perfectly now. Mm-hmm.
And some people say dips going too deep is hard on the shoulders. And maybe I'm lucky so far, because I go pretty deep down, and I've never felt like it damaged my shoulders. Maybe I'm lucky, and one day I'll regret that. But I just find dips are an excellent. There's just something about those body weight exercises that works really well.
Front delts work well in dips. and the medium delt, yes, in the seated and an assisted dip.
Yes, yes, that's good. Those are the assisted chins and the assisted dips.
Dip.
I find in some cases are better than some of the other machines. Like they mimic a real chin up better, right? Than some of the other pull downs and stuff like that. I mean, right beside me here, I have a hammer strength pull down, which has got a
Yes.
really nice feel to it. But and I
It's
love,
similar to low friction of Nautilus. The first generation is similar in the
I've not used that one, but this is super low friction, but
yes.
it is isolateral, but I don't find that to be, see, what I find with pulling exercises, it's not as much of a big deal because you're going to pull evenly. If you're pushing up, what I find a danger is if somebody starts to fail and one arm starts to go higher than the other because they fail with one arm before the other, then they can torque their back, right? And hurt themselves.
Yes.
But that doesn't happen when you're pulling. Do you know what I mean? When you're pulling, you rarely see somebody's arm pull harder. It tends
This
to
happens.
be pushing.
This happens in the incline press in Nautilus. Is isolateral, but in my opinion, is a very good machine. I have this one in the gym. Is very nice.
And as a trainer, as you're training people, you might redefine failure. Failure is when one arm can't keep up with the other arm, the set's over, right?
Yeah.
Because because remember, failure is as many reps as you can do perfectly.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So if you're no longer doing the reps perfectly, the set's over.
No. Yeah. Yes.
I want to thank you. I have a client in about 20 minutes. So I'm going to thank you for the time you spent today. And I will send you a draft of this video, and I'll ask you to list any information, like I'm putting it on YouTube, right? I'm just going to stop recording here for a second. Hang on, just 1 second.